watercolours that I've made over the holidays. Now these watercolours are a series of whales, humpback whales, and I've got a little trick to show you. So here you go. So the trick is to make a template first. So I took a piece of paper and I drew on the whale and I cut it out. And this way, every time I want to make a new watercolour, I just draw around the template instead of having to draw it each time. So let's start with making the template. For this, you need to take a piece of watercolour paper or a slightly thicker card than paper, a slightly thicker weight of paper than your usual printer paper. The inside of a cereal box works just as well because the cardboard is quite stiff. So first I sketch in pencil, and then once I'm happy with my lines, I will commit to them in marker. Take the scissors and cut out the whale. Next thing, you need to take a piece of paper, and this is going to be what you create your watercolour on. Now, it's best to use watercolour paper because it won't rip when you're applying the wet paint. Now, the whale could be cropped off the paper, it could be jumping upwards, or it could be swimming downways. You get to be creative here and decide which way you want it to go. When you're happy, simply draw around your template, and there you go, you have your whale. Imagine a horizon line, and then for this whale I've got his tail coming out of the water, and I'm adding seaweed or kelp at the bottom to give some green colour to separate it from the whale. Then I'm going over it in white wax crayon because this will create a resist, so when I paint on the paper, the white of the paper will still shine through. This becomes clearer the darker the colours that I paint on. So I'm building it with layers. I always start with very, very watery white colours and then apply darker. Remember, you can't take the paint off or erase it, so I just build up the layers slowly. A nice technique is to wet the paper first, and then when you paint on top it sort of bleeds and all smudges. When painting the background, I start with my lighter colours first, which is the light green of the seaweed, and then I work on the shadows, the dark green underneath. So everything under the horizon line is water, or the seaweed, and then everything above that horizon line is going to be the sky. So I work by filling in all the green and blue colour. And now I'm just adding a little bit of blue into a cloudy sky. And taking the wax crayon again, I create some splash effects, some curly lines. And then as I paint over, it creates that resist and a big splash effect at the top. Another fun technique is splattering, where you get paint on your brush and you tap it over a pencil, and you get these splashes occurring. My second humpback whale is going to be jumping out of the water. Again, I trace round, I add in my white wax crayon, and then once I'm happy, I can start applying the paint. Again, starting with that very light blue colour. And then my medium blues. Here I'm wetting the paper first, and then applying the paint on the top to make it bleed and smudge. Don't worry about making mistakes here, it's all about experimenting with the watercolours. almost a black colour around the eye and on the fin. This time I'm going to put my horizon line much lower down the page, so more of the whale's body is jumping out of the water. And the sun is this semicircle, which I'm going to leave white. It's going to be very white sun, very bright sun sitting on the water. And around the outside I paint those warm tones for the sunset. And again I create the splashes using the wax crayon and then the watercolours over the top. And then for my final piece, I am going to create a whale under the water, fully submerged. So again, I drew around the template, I added the wax crayon and started off with my very light watercolours, a very pale blue. Moving through to my darker colours. And then for the background this time, because the whole whale is under the water, I'm wetting the paper first and then flicking or splattering the watercolour paints over the top. Decided to mix in a bit of green and a bit of purple too, just to add some contrast to the whale. And then for the very wet brush, I'm just dabbing on paint and then sponging it to blend it in. This is a really fun way to experiment with splattering and dripping. You can let the water run down the page onto your desk. Hope you enjoyed watching.